You are now entering the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. We in the building. High priestess in the building, didn't let my fears kill me. Transmuted my pain in that cleanse in the rain. Found out I was working and I conquered my demons. I accepted my purpose and the goddess I became.
I'm gonna put them on them, but poor things.
Good morning. All right, you guys, this is the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. I am your host, Divine Moon Goddess, and this is our co-host, Oracle Empress in the building.
Hello.
We are really live today, you guys.
Yeah.
We're really live today. Just so you guys know, if you want to know the schedule of our really lives or pre-recorded, right now, Mondays and Wednesdays are going to be our pre-recorded shows. And then Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, good morning, Dana, are going to be our live shows. So if you want to vibe with us live, those are the days. We do not record on Saturdays and Sundays. Those are our 2 days off. Michelle, we're gonna just take a moment and send you some love and some support, boo. I do hope that you guys find some comfort during the time of dealing with the passing of your father. It is not easy at all. I, I do know that feeling all too well, but it doesn't. It's not nice. It's not nice to ever. We're never ready to say goodbye. So we're gonna just send you some love and some hugs, boo. This morning's show is brought to you by Divine Moon Goddess Healers and Radiance.com, where all your questions are answered. And that is where you go for all the classes and services. If you want to book in-depth services with myself or Oracle Empress, we are both on the website. And anybody else on this live who wants to send Michelle some love, please do. Just send her some love and support as her and her family come to terms and accept the death of the father, because that's really what the process is going to be for you, boo. Good morning, Betty. Good morning, Debbie. I would say, and I know we've done shows, and we'll probably do a show about death because I think we probably need to talk about it a little bit more. But one of the things is I don't care how much warning you get, I don't think you're ever ready to say goodbye. I don't think if you like they told you 6 months in advance, that you would be prepared on the day of letting go. I just think there's just no way. We think we can pre-program ourselves to be okay with certain things, but I think when it happens, it's still a shock. It still hurts. It's still like, this person is, and it takes some getting used to. But know that he will be around you. They do have to go through their transition process and claim to know what that is or how long that takes. But just, keep talking to him, keep sending him love and just tell him it's okay. Sometimes our people want to stick around because they don't want to leave us. So, just let him know it is okay for him to connect with Creator and he always can come back and visit, you know. Today's show is actually about suffering. We're going to talk about suffering today. One of the points that I did want to talk about, and I have Sagru, I have him up because I love his talks and stuff, and I'm going to play one of his videos here because we actually create so much more suffering than what we need, I believe anyway. Oh, you got to say goodbye. I'm pretty sure he heard you. I'm pretty sure he heard you. Oh. Um, so we do create a lot more of our suffering than what we need, right? Hey, Michelle. So what do we do? Like, how do we stop going through the energy of making ourselves suffer. How do we, get back to that point of being happy and thriving? How do we let shit go so that we don't have to sit in this place of suffering, right?
Um, I think the problem is I don't think many people deal with what's making them suffer, or they don't
Right.
know how to deal with what puts you in the place of suffering. I know from experience myself and the death of my son. Um, in some ways, not every day because I don't do it every day, but in some ways, the suffering. Um, I refuse to give up the suffering because there's partial blame that I blame myself for, and I don't feel like I'm worthy of letting that go. Although I know I'm worthy of letting that go. Does that make sense? Like I know I'm not like I shouldn't carry it, but then there's a part of me where it's like I feel like there's a bit of me that still has to be punished for a little bit longer,
Right.
if that makes
Right.
sense.
No, it makes total sense. And we do this to ourselves. We do this to ourselves. I did it with my first, I lost my first child. Same thing. I did the same thing for 20 plus years. And I was telling
Hmm.
close colleague and friend this the other day, and she will be coming on our show as we do have a segment on life after losing a child. We have that coming in about a week. But, it is very hard, especially with grief. I think grief is one of the biggest ways that we stay in a place of suffering. Good morning, Renee. Right. I do feel like acceptance is a huge factor in it because I think most of the time we stay in a place of disbelief and we stay in a place of I don't want to say it's loss maybe, but there is this just very lost place that you sit in, right? And I think you should take all the time in the world to grieve. I don't think there's a time limit, Beth. I definitely agree with that there's no time limit. But when do we allow ourselves to be happy again? A lot of us are guilty because we get guilty of how can I be happy right now in this life? How can I thrive, but my people aren't here? Or how, you know what I mean? Or even like the people who lose a husband or something. And it's like, well, how can I move on when that was the love of my life? How could I ever love again? And it's
Hmm.
horrible. That person will sit in that suffering and never let anybody else come in their life and love them again, which it's hard. It's a hard place. So when do we allow ourselves to keep thriving and be happy? And I think we've had different shows where we've talked about letting go, and we've talked about and Dana, we're doing a show with Dana next week. We're going to be talking about that life after a great loss of losing, someone who's profound to you in that way and not being able to really move forward, right? Because we sit here and we do have the guilt. How can I be happy?
Hmm.
How can I move on? How can I thrive in this life? But then we create the suffering, or not create it, but we at least hold on to the suffering, even if we
Yeah.
didn't create the suffering, right?
And even though I know my son would want me to um, let it go, um, I still, in some ways, feel like would he want me to really let it go? You know what I mean? Like, because me and my son had some really nasty words before he passed, and those were our last words. So I'm like, I know like that part of me is like, oh, he would want you to be happy. But then there's really that part of me that's like, would he really want you to be happy yet? Like, are you sure he forgives you? Or are you sure, and I'm sure like that's how people who have partners that pass, like my grandma, when my grandpa died, she never moved on. And she always is like, he wouldn't want me to. Grandpa wouldn't want me to move on. And that
Right,
we always were like, Grandpa would want you to be happy, you know what I mean? He'd want you to do, but she, in her heart, believed like it would be wrong for whatever
right,
reason. She was like, no, I'm not doing that.
right,
That was my husband. That was my husband. And so
right.
yeah, I do. I think
And
we
it's
put ourselves in a place of suffering. And in some ways, that suffering makes us feel good or it makes us feel justified in
right,
certain
right.
things at times.
But when it comes to like our family who pass, do we really feel that they're that shitty that they wouldn't want to see us sad, you know,
Hmm.
happy? Because they've had to watch us be sad, and they've had to sit next to us and try to comfort us in spirit when they can't hold us, when they can't, you know what I mean? Like if you think about it on the other end of it, because all you know of is your side, so all you know is
Hmm.
your side, your feelings of what you're going through. But just for a minute, just take a moment and think about that past level and who's had to watch you suffer, who's had to watch you cry, who's had to watch you break down, even when nobody else is seeing you. Because remember, we do a lot of stuff in the back end of it where no, you know, we kind of cry to ourselves and we kind of break down in moments where no one's watching, but they're there. They're there witnessing that, right? So
Hmm.
we don't think about that. Would they truly, or would they be that shitty that they would want to see us just for the rest of our lives like that? And I don't think they would. I don't think they would want to just have us there miserable and going through the emotions like that. I think we tend to come to this space and then we stay here because of our guilt, our shit, you know, and that's probably something that we need to work through. I think you're frozen, Lauren, if you hear me. I'm gonna play this thing from Saguru. He is guru, and I love his videos, and I love his words, just because of where he's at. Good morning, Tiffany. Good morning, Janine. Good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Susan, Shondell, whoever else, Lisa, who came in. I'm gonna play him because I think his words are profound, and I just want you guys to listen to this. We lost Oracle, but I'm pretty sure she'll pop back on. I just want you guys to listen to this. He talks about the source of all suffering, and then we're going to talk about it. It's sneeze season again. You know the routine. Well, that's not him. Tissues, maybe some medication. Any. I know the Eastern minds have also absorbed this in a horribly distorted way. But right now, if you told your friend or your relative, I'm going to the ashram for 3 days, they would become very kind towards you and ask, why? What went wrong? Something must be wrong with your life. You're going to the ashram to heal a wound, to solace yourself. Something must be really wrong with your life, or you must be too old for life. Otherwise, why would you go to an ashram? So this has crept into this culture also. Essentially, if you're alive only in parts, or if you're partially alive, to be partially alive is a terrible torture. Many of you have been through these science classes. I'm sure you opened up frogs and cockroaches, did you? They were nice, lively beings, but you opened them up because you wanted to find their heart and liver and kidney. Half alive is torture. Have you seen this? Always being half alive is torture. This is the torture that a large segment of humanity is going through right now because they are half alive. Only one part of them has become alive. Only their physicality and mentality has become alive.
The rest of it is yet to become alive. Half alive people will suffer everything. They will suffer ignorance, they will suffer education, they will suffer poverty, they will suffer affluence, they will suffer being alone, they will suffer being in a relationship. If they're not married, they suffer. If they're married, they if they don't have children, they suffer that. As if children, if they are there, they can come and bite you. They do. No children, what are you suffering? But that also they suffer. Just show me one thing that human beings are not suffering right now. Just show me one aspect of life that human beings are not suffering right now. They're suffering just about anything. Not just life. They're even suffering death before it happens. So he's thinking of building a pyramid for himself. That which is and that which is not. Everything they suffer. This is not. You are not suffering loneliness. You are not suffering company. You are not suffering money. You are not suffering poverty. What you're suffering is you are half alive. You're desperately trying to make yourself fully alive through money, through drink, through sex, through going on a trek, coming to the ashram. In so many ways, you're somehow trying to make yourself fully alive. It is yet to happen fully. Here and there, you feel a burst of aliveness, but again, it ebbs down. So, when people are constantly half alive, pleasure becomes an important part of your life. Very important part of your life. Without it, you cannot exist. Pleasure becomes paramount in your life when you're only half alive, when physicality is all that you know. Pleasure becomes of immense importance in your life. If you become fully alive, you will become so blissful, joyful, ecstatic without reason. Bursts of ecstasy within you without any reason. It's almost embarrassing. Now, the thought of pleasure just evaporates. Looking for a drink, looking for some kind of pleasurable thing, just evaporates out of your mind because you're fully alive. When you're fully alive, pleasure disappears. When you're half dead, pleasure is an important thing.
So, the biggest thing that struck me listening, good morning, Christina, Veda, and Leela. One of the things that struck me is the part when he said, what most of us are half alive.
Mm-hmm.
And this year is the year that really that became a epiphany moment for myself, that I was existing, not living. And I've talked about this on a couple different aspects of it, but I really realized that I was existing, not living, and I wanted to start more living, because that half alive is why our suffering happens, because we're not living, we're existing in whatever culture, whatever society, whatever pre-programming, whatever it is, that makes us feel like this is it, right? And the suffering comes from normally what we don't have, right? It is all of the shit that we don't have. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have this person's gone. Even like the part where he's talking about where we are suffering even before someone's dead, we suffer, even though we know death is a part of life. Even though we know it's a huge part of life, there is no life without death. Yet we can't come to terms with it. We can't come to terms with saying goodbye. And I don't know, you guys drop me some comments and let me know, what is the worst thing about death?
For me, it's the unknowing. First of all, for when it first happens, it's the unknowing about pain. And I know everyone's like, well, there's studies that say that, this happens and that happens and this happens and there is no pain, but there also is studies that your brain works for a really long time
Right.
after you die, right?
Right.
And has anyone died and then came back after they really died, like died, not just for a few minutes, died on the
Right.
table, died, and said, well, when they did this or they did that, there was no pain. And so for when my son passed, especially with the organ donation and things, which we didn't do, it was just a lot of, I wonder if he's still in pain. And I didn't
Right.
want him to feel the pain.
Right.
Um, I even still have creepy moments where I'm like, what if I can feel myself get cremated? Or what if you wake up in the casket?
Right.
Anything. Like, I still have those creepy moments where you see that. And
Right.
then after that, the death thing it's hard to process the grief of um, hoping that there is life after death, because I don't want that to be my last moment ever. Like, I want, if I could have a guarantee, and I know it sounds spiritual, so I should just believe, right? Like,
Right.
we all know me. I can't. I question everything. Blah blah blah. Even people who are like, I've died before, and I've seen this and I've seen that, so I know. To me, unless there's like some one day where the fucking clouds part and I can see part of heaven, I'm not gonna fucking believe it, right? So for me, it's being able to find him. Like, what if I can't find him, or what if there is really nothing? Because I was just talking to one of my kids, and he doesn't believe in anything at all. I'm like, well, what do you believe? And he was like, I just believe when you die, you die. He was like, I won't even know because I'll be dead. And I'm like, so I'm like, so
Right.
you're
Right.
telling
Right.
me that you don't think you'll yes again? And he was like, no, I don't think so. And that's hard for me. That's hard for me to
Right.
process. Even
Right.
thinking about reincarnation.
Right.
I
Right.
don't want to be reincarnated, and I don't want my kids to be reincarnated, because I want to be with my kids after I die. I don't want to die and then find out this fucker was fucking reincarnated 5 days before I died, and now I'm not going to see him for a long time again. So
Right.
it's the process of the pain, the suffering, their physical suffering, and then it's the process of believing that
Right.
there's something. Because I know we all are supposed to believe, especially when you're spiritual, you're supposed to believe that there's this big epiphany of souls on the other side, and angels and ancestors and all this
And
wonderful
some
shit.
purpose. Right.
It's like, is this really something people tell themselves to make themselves feel better about death? Or does this really happen? Or do we die and we just go to nothing? Don't even
Right.
know we're dead. We're just like hanging out
Yeah. I
in
think
some
there's a
crazy.
lot of unknowns. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of, I think our mind is one of our biggest hindrances in life, period, which creates a lot of suffering. And I used to have all those thoughts until, as a medium, started connecting with people's family members that I did know nothing about. So that was a game changer for me, I would say, on in this spiritual journey. Because before that, even though I wanted to believe that there was more, I wanted to believe there was a place or somewhere, especially with my daughter's passing, because I never felt her after her death. I never felt her presence. I never felt her around. I knew just she wasn't in a spirit form, basically, to the core of me. Before I was even heavily spiritual, I knew that, you know? But with my dad, it was a little bit different because he would come to me in my dreams periodically, but he wouldn't talk. He would just have this facial expression. And it was always letting me know that he was not okay. And even though people would be like, oh, he's okay, he's found peace. And to the core of me, I was like, no, he didn't. He's coming to me. He's not supposed to be here because that's what he would literally be there. But it was like he wasn't supposed to be there. And he would just look at me. And I would walk up to him in my dream, like, Dad, I see you. You know what I mean? Like, hi. And he would just give me this look. And then he would walk away from me. because I don't think he was supposed to be there. And I do feel he was trapped. And it wasn't until I got into my spiritual path and I started to open up some shit that he presented himself. And you know the story. I thought he was a fucking demon when he came to me, the energy that he was sitting in. So that's what really changed the game for me, to believe that there is something on the other side. But same thing, like I feel that we create our reality on earth, I do feel we create a reality when we pass. I do feel like you can get
Mhm.
stuck in that reality when you pass. So if you believe in hell, I do believe you're going to go to some type of hell. I do believe it kind of coincides. That's my belief though. I can't, have everyone like, hey, you need to believe this, because it's from my own experience of what I've kind of just, gone through. But the fact of connecting with so many people's past loved ones, and I've never met them, you know like I was in a session the other day, and this girl's niece comes into the reading, and it's just like I'm seeing this little girl and her frilly little thing, and it's like a niece that drowned, and she used to buy these little dresses for her niece, and it's like she's okay. If you guys were wondering, she's okay. Now, have there been times where I get spirits that are not okay? Yes. Yes. So, when there was some mediums that would be like, "Oh no, everyone goes to heaven," kind of thing, I'm like, "No, no, no, no." That's not what I've experienced. But I think some mediums prefer to tell people that instead of telling them, "No, your person's not okay." And I think that's just a choice that people do, and just say that instead of telling you the honest truth. Me, I've never been able to lie like that. I'm like, if they're not okay, they're not okay. I'm not feeling that they're okay? But I think our suffering comes from that, the process of unknown, but the what ifs. What if it isn't this way? What if it is this way? What if they are hurting? What if they are sad? Even if we look outside of death, right? And like Sigrid was saying, some people are sad because they've never had kids. Some people are sad with kids. It's like it's ongoing. We're always looking at something that we don't have. We're always looking like we're less than, or we're always looking like we're missing something in life that creates this suffering for us. So when do we switch that?
Uh, I think it depends on the person. I think, like we've already talked about, it's the understanding that suffering comes from our feelings and emotions, not from the physical thing that happened, but the way that we tend to perceive things and the way that we see things, the way that we process things in our mind after the physical thing happened,
Right.
is what causes that suffering. And is, when do you let it go? When do you? I
Right.
think I don't want to say a healthy person, okay? 'Cause that's not what I mean.
You kind of you kind of stuck.
A person who is very in touch with their feelings. I didn't do this at all last night. I'm so angry right now.
I know, and all of a sudden it's like,
Yep. Now it's going to do it all morning. I think a person who is, and I want to say healthy emotionally and mentally, in the way where they understand themselves, they understand the way they think, they understand, they're just, a little bit more in tune with things. I think their grieving process is a lot easier. I think
right,
the grieving process, or the suffering process, or the holding on to guilt process is harder for people
right,
who are still in the beginning phases of even being okay with themselves. Because
right,
I know if I was okay 100%, not even, well, can anyone ever be 100%? I don't know, maybe. But if I was even 90% okay with the person that I actually am. Now, this is not saying I don't love myself. This is not saying I'm not worthy. But if I was even 90% okay with who I am, where I am, what's going on, where I am in my path, where I am in my life, anything like that. Um, I would know that I don't deserve, or I would know that it's okay.
Right, right,
And I'm not there yet. So I think it's a process of understanding my thoughts. I also think it's a process of um, it's a process of knowing that it doesn't make me less than, or nobody's going to be angry at me, or even not
right,
giving a fuck who's angry at me,
right,
for moving on with my life.
right, right, right. You know, and I see a lot of people have kind of the same answers when it comes, especially with the suffering with the death part, losing someone, of those unanswered questions. Because again, some of the things that we associate it with and we hold on to, that energy doesn't even give two shits about what we're stressing over
Mhm.
sometimes. And I've seen it. I've done quite a few mediumships now where I've seen it, where it's like you want to hear this and you want to hear, and they're just over here laughing about some bullshit. You know what I mean? You
Mhm.
know, they're like cracking up on some shit. They don't care, and it's not that they don't care about you. It's just like stop worrying. When my dad started to come through in the beginning, he would kind of make fun of me through these fucking tarot cards. And I was so serious, like, what the fuck, And it's like, you need to lighten up. You need to lighten up. You need to laugh more. You need to smile more. Fucking be happy. And we get so caught in the worrying about what do we do? And here comes this guilt. But it's us.
Mhm.
It's us thinking that. You know what I mean? Most of the time, and I'll say most of the time. I'm not going to say all energies are nice and bubbly with us. No, because some energies I've seen, they're like, you guys are fucking assholes. But most people who pass on, they don't even have all the baggage that they used to have. They don't care about the things that we're caring about. It's said and done. They're gone, you know. More of it is just letting you know that they are around. And most of the time when I do mediumship, the other person on the other side wants to hear it. You want to hear from your person that I'm so proud of you. You did everything right in this life, and that you don't, let it go. And the people never say that really. They don't. Most of the times they're talking about other shit and you never get that. It's the need for closure, I think, also. Um,
Mhm.
Without it, it's like we can't close the door to that. We can't say, all right, we're done, or we can't move forward because we're left with all these unanswered questions. But what if we could? What if we could just let it go? What if it was just that fucking easy to let shit go? What if it was just that easy to just say, you know what? That's it.
Even too, I think as far as like the suffering that I do as a mother with my children, I don't ever think I was a horrible mother at all. I don't even think I was a bad mom. Um, but there's things that my kids feel regret about, whether it's the time that I was able to spend with them, um, the places, the places that we had to live or grow up or anything like that. There is parts of my kids that um, are kind of, I don't want to say traumatized, but there's parts of growing up, of having a young mom who had to work, had to go to school, had to do this, had to do that. My kids grew up too fast because they had to raise the other kids and things like that. But I think even my suffering for that, um, it's really hard to let go as much as I have let it go, because I can't sit in the I should have did this better, or I should have waited, or because I didn't. I
Right,
had them, right? They're here.
right,
Um, it's hard because my kids haven't fully let that go.
right, right, right.
So just knowing that they're still not.
You froze. Technical difficulties. Just moaning. One of the things I want to say to that, I'm hoping she comes back through. Um,
100%
Good morning, Wana Wana.
okay, or they can't 100% understand my choice.
You're
Hmm.
back.
I'm back. If these
Thank
people
you,
don't
Angel.
fix this, I'll cry.
We were kind of hearing.
But so it's just the fact that they're not 100% okay
Right.
that I still kind of hold that part too when
I I think
it
that
comes
comes with,
to things with them.
yeah, I think that comes with,
This might be the internet, man. I'm gonna go check.
okay. I think that comes with acceptance, you guys. So even as a parent, right, we have things with our children. Our children, they have their own perception and their own um outlook of how life went, right? They saw life in their eyes. We can't take that from them. We can't say that your life didn't happen that way, because it did in their eyes. So even when it comes to the stuff that's happened with our children, we have to get to a place of understanding and allow them and honor them in what happened, their perspective. Most of the time we want to prove that it didn't happen that way. We want to prove that, no, I was a good parent, or I did the best that I could, right? Because our own guilt from the situation. But sometimes we have to sit back and just accept that our kids are not as happy with their life as we wanted them to be. We have to accept that maybe they grew up faster than we wanted them to be, right? We have to accept that maybe there's times that they felt abandoned, even though it hurts. That's something that they have to work through and we have to let go. I think that one of the biggest things that with suffering is that, and I'm going to read the definition about suffering, because the definition of suffering is the state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardship. Okay. So when we stay in this state, we kind of take away from our lives. We're not allowing ourselves. So if I sit here as a parent and I'm just like feeling shitty because I didn't get to give my kids everything that I wanted, or I didn't get to give them the life, based on what? What am I basing this on? I'm basing it on other people's lives. Okay. Right? Because if I'm sitting here, oh, I didn't give them all the things that I wanted to give, sitting and those games, those ceremonies, those awards, and all of that, those are the things that they want you to come to, not just, sit, buy them a TV, buy them a game set, buy them fucking fancy shoes. So when we have these regrets, right? When we look at suffering, what is our suffering? And I want you guys all to look at your lives. I want you to take a moment, look at your lives, and check to see, where's your suffering coming from? Where is your suffering coming from? Of course, I believe that, Beth, because even I've had some conversations with my daughter and we've worked out a lot of stuff. And she was carrying a lot of stuff from when she was younger. And a lot of it was, you know, because of her perception, me working. I was a single mom. I worked a lot. I missed a lot as a single mom working. And I had a lot of guilt and a lot of remorse for that, and I wish I could have been there more for her. But it's life, and life happens, right? And it's something that we've processed. And as she's in her early 20s, and now she's a mom and she's gone through some stuff, and so she kind of sees through her own eyes now as a mom trying to work and being a single mom herself, how hard it is, right? It goes back to also that some people will never understand. Some people will never understand, um, because they've never been in our place, especially our children. They're not going to understand our full journey or the choices we made, because they didn't have to make those, right? So when we look at our suffering, the biggest thing I want you guys to think about is that, why are you creating this suffering for yourself? And even if you didn't create it, why are you holding on to it? Why are you not letting it go? Why are you not giving yourself a break? Why are you not allowing yourself to be happy? A lot of it is based on bullshit. a lot of it is bullshit that we need to let go. A lot of it, excuse me, is shit we need to accept. A lot of it is just allowing ourselves to fucking be happy and live. I think suffering um, sometimes gets addictive in the sense of because we can feel it, right? Most of us who sit in a place of suffering don't know how to be happy. Like, really, don't know how to be happy. Don't know how to just be in that energy and enjoy life. And so once you start stripping away some of these layers, you will see that you enjoy being miserable sometimes. Okay. It's a harsh reality. And a lot of us do it, but you gotta get yourself out of there and ask yourselves, is this where I want to be for the rest of my life? Do I always want to be sad about something, which normally it's something minor that we're allowing to take over on our life and keep us in a state of suffering? What am I suffering for? If is it lack? Oh, because I don't have this. Oh, I don't have money. You know how many things there is to do in life that don't require any money? Okay. I think sometimes our pre-programming gets in our way, and so this is what keeps us in this box of suffering. But you got to ask yourself, when do you want to get out of it, right? And do you want the rest of your life like this? Like a lot of things that we don't let ourselves be happy. We don't let ourselves come to a place of acceptance. We don't forgive ourselves, right? Right, Betty? Your own bad decisions that you've not forgotten, right? So let's take a look at bad decisions real quick, right? That's life. You know what I mean? Just think about it. We came here, right? Even with past lives and all of that stuff, it's erased from our memory. We have this new persona in this life we are born into, right? And we're here to experiment. We are here to live. We're here to experience being in this body that we've somehow chosen in this life, right? Whether that's our parents, our family, or whatever, we're here to experiment. With an experiment, you're going to take some detours from the path, right? The biggest thing is understanding that and letting it go because it didn't pan out. If everything, let's just take it here real quick. If everything in your life went exactly how you wanted it, tell me you wouldn't get bored. If everything went to plan and everything always worked for you and everything down the line you just went off and did whatever, what else is there? There's no mountains, there's no climb, there's no, um kind of like that success afterward, right? There's nothing to kind of work for because it all comes so easy. What do you truly learn in life if there is not some type of kickback from the universe to say, no, 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 no. We need you to really feel what this feels like in this particular situation, right? Right. We sit in suffering. We sit in these places and we don't realize that life is to be lived, life is to be experienced. With that comes ups and downs. With that comes obstacles. With life comes death. A lot of us some people never lose a person in their whole lives. No one ever died. They don't deal with it, right? Everyone's experience is different. But when we compare ourselves to other people, right? And we're saying, why does this person get this and I don't? That's where we create suffering because we're giving two shits about somebody else's life and somehow we're unworthy or we're less than because we don't have what the other person has. That's where a lot of our suffering comes from. Those of you who are holding on to your mistakes, right? The things that you have chosen to do in your life that maybe didn't pan out, maybe didn't work, maybe it caused suffering, maybe it hurt somebody. Just forgive yourself. You know what I mean? Even if you can't apologize to the person, even if you can't apologize in the situation, say it, you know, let it go. You got to get to that point where understanding that life is going to have those ups and downs. Life is going to have those twists and turns. Without it, we don't fucking learn shit. Without it, we don't have that experience, right? But don't stay in it is what the problem is. Staying in it, thinking that you can't move past a situation, thinking that you can't allow yourself, like what happens? Most people get hurt with love because they made some, a couple wrong decisions in love, and all of a sudden it's, I'll never love again. I'll never let anybody in my heart space again. No, it wasn't your heart. It wasn't love. It was poor ass boundaries, you know? And I do think, I don't think, the internet is horrible. I think what people choose to use the internet for is a problem. And I think we as people have a choice. There's a lot of shit I don't watch. Okay. There's a lot of websites I don't go to. There's a lot of things that people watch that I don't watch because I don't entertain it. Right. We have to, at some point, start taking control of our lives. And even with our children, saying what we can and cannot do, what we will or won't do. I think if you follow the trail of bullshit, you will see the trail of bullshit. Right. And I think you just have to take that responsibility to say, okay, I know what the internet is. I know what's out there, but there's all this beautiful shit on the internet too. I can't tell you guys how easy it is for me to learn a lot of the stuff that I want to learn that I can't go find a guru, especially when in 2020, when everything was shut down. You couldn't even go to the fucking library, right? It was so profound to go on the internet and just find so many different articles, books, things like that to look up to advance my career in the spiritual life, and me just watch and learn from people, watching their videos. There's so much good shit on the internet, but it's what do you spend your time doing? You can spend your time looking up the bullshit and chaos, or you can spend your time educating yourself, bringing the knowledge into your home, doing something of value. We all have choices at the end of the day. Again, our suffering comes from ourselves. We don't always create the suffering, but we do keep the suffering going. Good morning, Lucinda. Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. And we do have a show coming up, I believe, next week. Or I don't know what we're going to be doing tomorrow, but it's probably next week, where we're talking about that. Where when do you get when do you take the responsibility of your own actions? It's easy to blame everybody else. Oh, life's shitty, people are shitty. And I hear it all the time. And people are like, oh, in this day and age, it's bad. And I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Look at history. Look at history. History has always, always, always had killing, murder, incest, rape. All of it's been going on for thousands of fucking years. It didn't just start in 2020, 2021. And some people are like, no, it's worse now. No, it isn't. People got lynched in the fucking street, at some point. People got stoned way back when. They got stoned in the street. A mob would kill you in the street, before they even had rules and fucking laws. If you look back to history, there's always been this. There's always been this rage. There's always been this anger. It's what we choose to do with it. We can choose to sit in the suffering with everyone else and say, oh my God, the world is horrible. Or we can choose to see the beauty in the world and start to change. That's the game changer. The game changer is when you stop saying and creating this ugly world for yourself. Is there ugly things out there? Is there shittiness out there? Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I'm not saying that it's all cookies and fucking cupcakes, right? But we actually start to hold on to that, and then everything is bad. There's beauty in this world. There's knowledge in this world. There are some loving people in this world. Okay. You just have to create that energy to instill that in your life and get away from the bullshit. Get away from all of the hate and anger. You don't have to have that in your life. But if I'm a history person, I've always loved history, and I always go back to watching different decades and genres, and there's always been craziness, killing, and stuff like that. People pillaging, murdering, taking over this country that we're in, USA, right? America. was one of them that, people came over and took away from someone. So this is not new. We act like it's new. Again, creating suffering in our mind to make us feel better because we can't comprehend that life can still be so shitty, that people can still be so shitty and mean, that people can still be so horrible. No, yes, they can. You just got to accept it, right? Good morning, you guys coming in. So if we get to a point of acceptance, I accept that life has some harshness to it. I accept that people murder because guess what? We are all one level away from murdering somebody. We all have it in us. There's not one person on this planet that doesn't have the ability to take another person's life. Because I guarantee if anybody, no matter how much you're like, I'll never hurt a fly, if you were in the point where you had to choose your life over somebody else's, you would choose yourself. Very rarely would you ever be the person who would choose the other person. You're going to choose because you're going to think about my family, my situation. We get very selfish as humans, right? So if we just get to the point where we accept things, but go for the good instead of the bad, tell yourself, let me look for the good. Let me look for the miracles. Let me look for the blessings. Let me look for the beauty outside. If you walk outside, instead of it being like, oh my God, another day, how about you walk outside and be like, oh my God, I can smell the fucking fresh air. Oh my God, I could see the sun shining. Oh my God, look up at the fucking sky and just say, wow, such a beautiful sky. You know, stop and smell the fucking roses. Stop and smell the flowers, you know, instead of like making it this dreary commute to fucking work where you're just like, oh, I got to be there. How about you start looking around and being appreciative of the experience that you're in that moment? Maybe look to your right. Look at the person sitting in the same light. You're all sitting in the light. Look next to them, smile. Look to the right of you, smile. Start changing the energy around you to be the influence of good, to be the influence of positivity. Maybe walk into work instead of being like, oh my fucking God, I hate it here. Somebody shoot me now. Maybe come in like, good morning. And like do the different vibe. Choose to be the positive in this world instead of sitting in the suffering of, oh my God, I got to go to work. Who the fuck is paying your bills? Yes, you got to go to work. Hello? Or you could just go home and lose everything. Like you have a choice. Some people choose to be homeless. You have a choice. You don't have to go to work. So we create the suffering. Now I've created the suffering like, oh my God, I have to go to this place that I fucking hate. You've created that. If you really don't like your job, leave. If you really don't like your relationship, like, oh my God, I got to go home to this person, leave. Once again, we create our suffering. We sit in the suffering way too long. Why? It's based on ego. It's based on what other people fucking think. And it's based on all the wrong reasons. You don't have to stay in the suffering. So when you choose to suffer, you just got to own it. You're choosing to sit in the suffering, right? Exactly. And I do believe we are all capable of violence. All of us are capable of going there. We all have it in us. We have light and dark within us. None of us are just light. When some people, and it's kind of my pet peeve, it's when some spiritualists are just like, I'm all light and I'm no dark. And I'm like, yeah, right. Until the right situation happens, people will see your true colors. You know what I mean? They will see that you can go there very quickly. And I know for a fact I'm not all light. I'm light and dark. I embrace my shadow just like I embrace my light, but I choose to be light. I choose to be love. I choose to be a positive impact in this life versus being a negative, because you can choose to be a negative. Being negative is staying in that, oh my God, I fucking hate this, going to work, being the dreary person at work who just gossips and talks shit instead of the person who is trying to make it a happier environment. So remember, you always have a choice. The suffering is your choice. You can choose to be in that suffering or you can choose to move forward. Okay. So that is my closing on today's thing. We're going to get into the horoscopes and tell you what the energy for today is. Biggest thing though, it's your choice at the end of the day. You choose it. Yes, life can be bad. Yes, life can be harsh. Yes, some of us have gone through some harsh shit in life. But even with all of that, I still choose to smile. I still choose to be the positive. I still choose to make a positive impact everywhere that I go. And I hope that my light and my energy help brighten your days, as we move on. And that's what is powerful, the change in everything, us changing and deciding to be positive, deciding to be that light in some dark ass times. But these dark ass times didn't just start today, they've been here. Okay. Exactly. You can't be balanced without embracing your shadow side. You can't. Okay. It took me a long time to realize that, because I will tell you, and we've talked about spiritual past, spiritual awakenings on some of the other shows, and we'll probably talk about the balance of light and dark on another show. But one of the biggest things is I feel like people don't realize when you come into this like path, everyone's like a light, and you got to be light and everything against the dark. But it's like there is no dark without light. There's no light without dark. And I think that's a misconception amongst a lot of these spiritualists in this, in the community. But so just know, again, this is the Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. I am your host, Divine Moon Goddess. It's brought to you by Divine Moon Goddess Healers and Readings.com.